Colloquial, informal conversation. It differs in grammar, vocabulary, syntax, imagery, or connotation. This rustic and colloquial setting illustrates the contrast between the typical middle-aged meal and the ostentatious formal feasts of the elite.
High schools across the nation are filled with students who have turned the English language into colloquial speech. Colloquial, informal conversation. It differs in grammar, vocabulary, syntax, imagery, or connotation.
Comedy, non-dramatic literary works marked by a happy ending, a lighter form of drama aiming primarily to amuse. The Taming of the Shrew is a Shakespearean comedy, creating humor through the wit, conflicts, and romantic entanglements of the characters.
Saturday Night Live delivers comedy skits by showing the ironies of everyday life and has been entertaining audiences for over 30 years. Comedy, non-dramatic literary works marked by a happy ending, a lighter form of drama aiming primarily to amuse.
Conceit, a type of metaphor that is strikingly odd and thoughtful. This picture is a perfect example of conceit. The peculiar bond between the donkey and the goat is unexpected and thought-provoking.
Love compared to a motorcycle is an example of conceit. Conceit, a type of metaphor that is strikingly odd or thoughtful.
Concrete, opposed to abstract, quantifiable. The Constitution is a document that has shaped the country's laws, and it is a concrete representation of our abstract ideals.
Words like tree and book are concrete words and easily verifiable by the five senses, while words like truth and love are less easily definable. Concrete, opposed to abstract, quantifiable.
Literal, not figurative, accurate to the letter, matter of fact, or concrete. A defense attorney uses literal jargon in a case to show his professionalism and win the case at the expense of the prosecution.
These cartoons illustrate a literal interpretation of common phrases. Literal, not figurative, accurate to the letter, matter of fact, or concrete.
Logos, one of the three modes of persuasion, refers to logical appeal. In recruiting potential students, universities mail millions of letters advertising their school and use logos to convince scholars of their attributes.
Lawyers employ logos in their speeches to more persuasively argue their cases. Logos, one of three modes of persuasion, refers to logical appeal.
Mechanics, any form of sentence regulation which aids in interpretation, period, comma, hyphen, italics, etc. The engine, tires, windshield wipers, and all other parts make up the mechanics of a vehicle.
Drills, wrenches, and hammers are the mechanics or tools used by a carpenter, like commas, periods, or italics in a sentence. These items help craft a cabinet or a paragraph. Mechanics, any form of sentence regulation which aids in interpretation, period, comma, hyphen, question mark, italics, etc.
Metaphor, saying one thing in terms of something else. My love is a rose and death is the thorn in our lives are both metaphors, describing intangible concepts in a simpler way through comparison to understandable objects.
In Capote's novel, In Cold Blood, he creates a metaphor between two stray cats and the principal characters, Dick and Perry. Metaphor, saying one thing in terms of something else.
Metonymy, figure of speech, the substitution of the name of an object with a word closely associated with it. Valentine's Day is a metonymy for love shared between two people.
The White House is an example of metonymy, where White House is substituted for the presidency. Metonymy, a figure of speech, the substitution of the name of an object with a word closely associated with it.
Microcosm, small world, representing an entire idea through a small situation or conflict. In Agatha Christie's detective stories, Miss Marple employed microcosm techniques, comparing global murder mysteries to her isolated village affairs.
The delightful store North Pole City is a microcosm of the Christmas season. Microcosm, small world, representing an entire idea through a small situation or conflict.
Modify, to limit in meaning. Dictionaries and thesauruses modify words by defining them and comparing them to other similar words.
Appliances come with many manuals so that they can modify how to use today's advanced technology. Modify, to limit in meaning.
Mood, atmosphere, the emotional feeling of the setting, something like tone but specifically related to setting. Producers use setting to create specific atmospheres in their movies. For example, Lord Voldemort is always pictured in a darkened background, illustrating his evil character.
The mood and atmosphere created by this house is sinister and eerie and borders on the macabre. Mood, atmosphere, the emotional feeling of the setting, something like tone but specifically related to setting.
Motif, a simple device that serves as a basis for an expanded narrative. The motif is a recurring feature in the work. A motif in the things they carried was storytelling. Time and again, O'Brien reiterates what a true war story is.
School is a motif of students' lives. Every day includes a trip to this institution of learning. Motif, a simple device that serves as a basis for an expanded narrative. The motif is a recurring feature in the work.
Motivation, a reason that explains or partially explains a character's thoughts, feelings, actions, or behavior. Financial stability is ample motivation for going to college.
For many people, money is ample motivation for crime, and wealth often provokes men to do unspeakable things. Motivation, a reason that explains or partially explains a character's thoughts, feelings, actions, or behavior.
Narration, writing that tells a story. The act of telling a story is also called narration. The speaker uses narration to convey his written ideas. He is the impersonal bystander in his story.
The Holy Bible is a narration of civilization before and after the birth, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Narration, writing that tells a story. The act of telling a story is also called narration.
Narrative, a story told in fiction, nonfiction, poetry, or drama. Shakespeare composed many famous narratives in the form of sonnets and dramatic scripts.
Every book published is a narrative. It tells a story, conveys an idea, or projects a thesis to its audience through its written words. Narrative, a story told in fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and drama.
Narrative essay, an essay which tells a true story. The Diary of Anne Frank is a narrative essay because it relates the events around Anne's life in hiding from the Nazis.
The book Freedom Writers is composed of many narrative essays from students based on their actual lives. Narrative essay, an essay which tells a true story.
Natural setting, all setting that is produced through nature, including weather and light or darkness. In Lawrence of Arabia, the desert natural setting creates an atmosphere of desolation and lack of life.